Have you ever noticed you do things most people just don't? Little gestures, automatic reactions, ways of thinking that feel natural to you but seem weird to others? Maybe you're one of those people who, when someone's telling a sad story, automatically feel a pang in your chest, like the pain is your own. Or maybe you have a knack for noticing details that slip by others. A fleeting expression of sadness on a stranger's face, the way clouds form in the sky, the subtle shift in someone's breathing when they're nervous. You might not realize it, but this behavior reveals something extraordinary about who you are. Carl Jung spent decades studying people like you, individuals with a heightened sensitivity to nuances of the human experience that escape common perception. When you feel uncomfortable in loud environments, when you need quiet moments to process your emotions, when you feel drained after intense social interactions, that's not weakness. It's the natural function of a mind that processes information more deeply and complexly. Jung found that certain people have what he called a more developed intuitive function. You don't just see what's on the surface. You sense the undercurrents, perceive patterns that haven't fully manifested, anticipate changes before they happen. Think about the last time you had a gut feeling about someone and later found out you were right. Or when you sensed something was off in a situation, even when everything seemed normal on the surface. Your unconscious mind was picking up subtle cues your conscious mind hadn't yet processed. Write special if you recognize these patterns in yourself and want to better understand this unique sensitivity you possess. What you need to understand is that this way of being in the world comes with a price and a gift. The price is that you often feel misunderstood, like you're speaking a language few can decipher. You might feel too intense for some people, too deep for superficial conversations, too sensitive for a world that values toughness. But the gift is extraordinary. You have access to layers of reality that remain invisible to most. You can perceive beauty where others see only the commonplace. You can feel someone's pain before they even express it. You can foresee possibilities that haven't yet become obvious. Jung observed that individuals with this developed sensitivity often become the healers, the artists, the visionaries of their communities. Not because they chose that role, but because their psychological nature naturally leads them there. Have you noticed how certain people seek you out when they're going through tough times? How they sense you understand them in a way others can't? That's because you possess the ability to connect with what Jung called the collective unconscious, that deeper layer of the psyche where all human experiences meet. When you feel empathy for a stranger on the street, when you're moved by a song you've just heard for the first time, when you have insights into complex situations without being able to explain exactly how you arrived at those conclusions, you're accessing this deeper dimension of human experience. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw to be fixed or a characteristic to be hidden. It's a gift that needs to be understood and honored. Jung believed that people like you have a crucial role to play in the evolution of human consciousness, serving as bridges between the conscious world and the depths of the unconscious. But for that gift to fully blossom, you need to first recognize it in yourself. You need to stop beating yourself up for being different and start appreciating that difference as something that makes you special. You need to understand that your intense way of feeling and perceiving the world isn't a burden, but an extraordinary ability that few possess. Ever wonder why you struggle so much with small talk? Why when someone asks, "How are you?" You're tempted to give a truly deep, honest answer about what's really going on inside, but then hold back because you know they don't expect or want that level of depth. Jung discovered a fundamental difference between those who live predominantly on the surface of consciousness and those who naturally dive into the depths of the psyche. You belong to the latter group, and that explains a lot about your daily experiences. When you're at a social gathering and feel drained after an hour, it's not because you're antisocial. It's because your mind is constantly processing not just the words people say, but also what they don't say, the emotions they try to hide, the unspoken tensions in the environment. You're simultaneously in multiple layers of reality while others remain on the surface. This manifests in ways you might not even consciously realize. You're the kind of person who can detect when someone's lying, not because you're looking for specific signs, but because something inside you just knows. Your intuition picks up incongruities your logical mind hasn't even processed yet. Jung called this intuitive thinking, a way of knowing that goes beyond linear logic. You don't need to gather all the evidence to reach a conclusion. Somehow you just know. And you're often right, which can be both a gift and a source of isolation. Think about how many times you've had insights about situations or people that only confirmed themselves much later. How many times have you felt something was wrong in a relationship, a job, a decision, long before the problems became obvious to everyone else? This ability comes from your natural connection to what Jung called the transcendent function, your ability to access information beyond the reach of ordinary consciousness. You don't just think about life. You feel it in multiple simultaneous layers. That's why you feel most comfortable with people who also possess this depth. When you find someone who can go beyond "how was your weekend?", when you can talk about what truly matters, about fears, dreams, the meaning of things, the nature of existence, you finally feel at home. But here's something you might not have considered. Your tendency to go deep isn't just a personal preference, it's a psychological need. Jung observed that people with your psychological profile literally can't function well by staying on the surface. You need depth like other people need air. When you're forced to remain in shallow conversations for too long, when you have to feign interest in topics you consider trivial, when you must repress your natural tendency to explore the deeper meaning of things, you feel like you're slowly suffocating. This explains why you might feel so alone, even when surrounded by people. It's not that you dislike company, it's that you need a specific kind of connection that most people can't or won't offer. Jung believed this need for depth is actually a calling from your own psyche to develop and grow. Your unconscious mind is constantly nudging you toward more meaningful experiences, more authentic relationships, and deeper understandings of yourself and life. It's like you're a natural-born deep-sea diver in a world where most people prefer to stay on the beach. You can appreciate the sand and sun, sure, but your true nature only reveals itself when you can plunge into the oceanic depths of human experience. This fundamental difference in how you process reality also explains why you often feel misunderstood. When you try to share your deeper insights, when you try to explain your complex intuitions, you're often met with blank stares or comments that downplay the importance of what you're trying to communicate. But here's the truth Jung wanted you to understand. The problem isn't you. The problem is trying to force your profound nature to function in a world that often values only the surface. You don't need to become more superficial. The world needs more people like you, willing to dive deep and bring to the surface the truths that remain hidden in the depths. Ever feel like you soak up other people's emotions like a sponge? Like when you walk into a tense room, your body automatically tenses, your mood shifts, like you're a walking, talking emotional barometer. Jung recognized that certain people function as highly sensitive psychic antennas, picking up not only the explicit emotions around them, but also the subterranean currents of feeling that others don't even recognize in themselves. If you're one of these people, you've probably had experiences that confirm this reality with almost unnerving accuracy. Maybe you've walked into a house where everything seemed fine on the surface, but immediately sensed something was wrong. Later, you discovered the residents were going through a serious crisis they were trying to hide. Or maybe you felt inexplicably sad while passing a certain place, only to find out later that a tragedy had occurred there in the past. This ability to sense beyond the obvious isn't imagination or coincidence. Jung called it mystical participation, a form of psychic connection that goes beyond the conventional five senses. You're literally tuned into emotional and energetic frequencies that most people can't perceive. The fascinating thing is that this happens completely automatically. You don't choose to feel your coworker's anxiety or the masked depression of the person you just met. It simply happens, as if your psyche is a natural receiver for the emotional emanations of others. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to receive content that will help you better understand this unique sensitivity and how to turn it into your greatest asset. But here's something crucial Jung discovered. This extreme sensitivity comes with an equally intense challenge. You don't just feel your own emotions, you feel everyone else's emotions around you. This can be mentally and physically exhausting in a way that less sensitive people simply can't comprehend. When you come home after a day interacting with other people and feel completely drained, it's not because you're weak or antisocial. It's because you spent the entire day processing not only your own emotional experiences, but also absorbing and processing the emotional experiences of dozens of other people. Jung observed that individuals with this trait often develop what he called a savior complex, an unconscious compulsion to try and heal or help everyone around them. That's because when you feel others' pain as if it were your own, the natural impulse is to try and alleviate it. You've probably found yourself in situations where you took on problems that weren't yours, got emotionally involved in other people's conflicts, or felt responsible for the emotional well-being of people you barely knew. This isn't excessive kindness. It's a natural response for someone who can't clearly distinguish where their emotions end and others begin. The danger is that you might end up living more of other people's emotional lives than your own. You might become so focused on picking up and responding to the emotional needs around you that you lose touch with your own needs, your own desires, your own boundaries. Jung believed that this tendency, if not consciously understood and managed, can lead to what he called psychic inflation, a condition where you unconsciously take on the responsibility of healing or saving the emotional world of everyone around you, which is obviously impossible and extremely destructive to your own mental health. But the solution isn't to try to become less sensitive. That would be like trying to cut off an essential part of who you are. The solution is to learn to honor that sensitivity while developing healthy boundaries that protect your own psychological integrity. You need to understand that your ability to feel deeply is a rare and valuable gift. But like any powerful gift, it needs to be used wisely. Just as a virtuoso musician needs to learn technique to channel their natural talent, you need to learn psychological techniques to channel your sensitivity constructively. Jung found that people with your psychological profile frequently become natural healers, not necessarily in the medical sense, but in the sense that their presence and understanding have a genuinely therapeutic effect on the people around them. You offer something extremely rare, an ability to truly see and feel another person's inner experience. When someone feels truly understood by you, when they feel you can perceive their pain or their joy in a way that goes beyond words, it creates a healing experience that few can provide. You become an empathetic mirror, where people can see their own emotions reflected with clarity and compassion. You know that feeling of being in a room full of people and still feeling completely alone? Not because the people are hostile or unpleasant, but because it feels like you're operating on a different frequency, like you're speaking a language that no one else can fully understand. Jung spent years studying this phenomenon, which he called the psychological isolation of the differentiated individual. He realized that people with your sensitivity and depth naturally develop a unique way of perceiving and processing reality, which inevitably creates a distance between you and those who operate on more conventional levels of consciousness. This loneliness isn't chosen, it just happens. When you try to share your deeper insights about life, about relationships, about the meaning of things, you're often met with blank stares, changes of subject, or comments that show the person hasn't really grasped the depth of what you are trying to communicate. Over time, you learn to keep your deeper thoughts to yourself. You learn to give more superficial answers, to participate in conversations that don't really nourish you, to smile and nod at the appropriate moments, while a significant part of who you are remains hidden and unexpressed. Jung observed that this creates what he called a psychological double life. There's the version of you that interacts with the everyday world, adapted, socially acceptable, able to navigate relationships and conventional situations. And there's the deeper version of you, who thinks and feels and perceives on levels you rarely manage to fully share with others. But here's something extraordinary Jung discovered. This experience of isolation, however painful, often becomes the catalyst for a special kind of inner strength. When you can't completely rely on external validation, when your deepest perceptions don't find immediate resonance in the world around you, you're forced to develop a robust inner confidence. You learn to trust your own perceptions even when no one else validates them. You learn to find meaning and purpose that comes from within, instead of relying solely on external acknowledgement. You develop an intimate relationship with yourself that most people never experience. Jung believed this solitary journey towards self-knowledge is actually a process of individuation, the gradual development of your unique and authentic personality, free from the expectations and limitations imposed by the collective. You're literally becoming who you truly are, instead of who others expect you to be. This psychological solitude also develops in you an extraordinary capacity to be with yourself. While many people feel uncomfortable with moments of silence, with their own company, with the absence of external distraction, you've developed the ability to find richness and depth in your inner world. Your moments of solitude aren't empty. They're filled with reflection, introspection, connection with deeper layers of your own psyche. You've discovered you can have fascinating conversations with yourself, that you can explore ideas and feelings at depths you rarely reach in interactions with others. Jung noticed that people with your profile often develop a special relationship with creativity, with art, with forms of expression that allow them to indirectly communicate what they can't express directly. Maybe you find in music, writing, painting, or other creative forms a channel to express the depth of your inner experience. This ability to transform isolation into self-knowledge, solitude into inner strength, misunderstanding into authenticity is one of the most remarkable characteristics of people like you. You don't just survive the experience of being different, you flourish through it. But Jung also observed that there's a crucial moment in this journey where you need to make a conscious choice. You can allow the experience of being misunderstood to turn into bitterness, resentment, or defensive superiority. Or you can use that experience as fuel to develop an even deeper and more compassionate understanding of human nature. When you choose the second path, something extraordinary happens. Your own experience of isolation becomes a source of deep empathy for others who also feel displaced, misunderstood, different. You develop the ability to recognize and embrace uniqueness in others, creating genuine connections based on mutual recognition of shared depth. You become someone others seek out when they need someone who truly understands them, who can see beyond the surface, who doesn't judge the intensity or complexity of their inner experiences. Your own journey through the solitude of being misunderstood transforms you into a beacon for others, navigating similar psychological waters. There's a moment in the lives of people like you where something fundamental shifts. It's like a light switching on in a room that's always been dark, revealing not only where you are, but who you truly are. Jung called this individuation. That moment when you stop trying to fit into the world's molds and start honoring your authentic self. Maybe you've already had this moment, or maybe you're just starting to feel the first stirrings. It's when you realize your sensitivity isn't a flaw to be fixed, but a gift to be nurtured. It's when you understand your need for depth isn't excessive, but a fundamental aspect of how your psyche is wired. Jung found that this awakening often comes with a feeling that's both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because you can finally stop pretending to be someone you're not. Terrifying because it means taking full responsibility for who you really are, without the safety net of others' expectations. When you embrace your true nature, interesting things start to happen. The right people start showing up. Individuals who not only tolerate your depth but cherish it, who feel nourished by it. You realize you weren't meant to connect with everyone. You were meant to connect deeply with a few specific people. Your relationships transform. You stop accepting superficial connections as enough. You stop investing energy in people who can't or won't meet you at your level of authenticity. This might mean some relationships drift away, but the ones that remain become infinitely richer and more fulfilling. Jung noticed that people undergoing individuation often experience what he called synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to confirm you're on the right path. Maybe you're thinking deeply about an issue and suddenly find exactly the book, person, or experience that offers insights. These synchronicities aren't magic. They're signs that you're aligned with your authentic self and therefore more attuned to life's deeper currents. When you stop swimming against your own nature, you find the currents that can carry you where you truly need to be. Your relationship with work transforms too. You realize you can no longer settle for activities that lack deep meaning, even if the work is well-paying or socially respected. If it doesn't feed your soul, if it doesn't allow you to express your authentic self, you feel like you're slowly dying inside. Jung believed people like you have a natural calling for roles involving deep understanding of human nature. It could be therapy, teaching, art, writing, visionary leadership, or any field where your ability to perceive and work with the depths of human experience can be valued and utilized. But here's the crucial thing. This awakening to your true nature also brings responsibility. When you recognize your unique gifts, you also recognize you have something important to offer the world. You can no longer hide behind false modesty or self-rejection. Jung observed that many highly sensitive people struggle with what he called a compensated inferiority complex. They know they're different, but interpret that difference as a deficiency instead of a gift. Part of the individuation process is transforming that negative self-perception into genuine recognition of your unique talents. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or superior. It simply means recognizing that you have specific capabilities that are valuable and needed in the world. It means stopping shrinking yourself to make others comfortable and starting to fully occupy the space your authentic nature requires. When you do that, something magical happens. You become a living permission slip for others to embrace their authentic natures too. Your courage to be different, to honor your sensitivity, to seek depth in a frequently shallow world, inspires others to do the same. You discover your personal journey of self-knowledge and self-acceptance isn't just about you. It's about contributing to the evolution of human consciousness. Jung believed that each person who fully individuates, who becomes authentically who they truly are, adds something valuable to humanity's collective psychological development. Your sensitivity, your depth, your ability to perceive nuances others miss, your need for meaning and authenticity, all those characteristics you may have seen as obstacles reveal themselves as essential tools for a life of genuine purpose and impact. Now that you understand the extraordinary nature of who you are, a fundamental question arises. What are you going to do with this understanding? Jung believed that reaching self-knowledge is only the first step of a much larger journey. The real work begins when you consciously decide to live from that authenticity and use your unique gifts to positively impact the world around you. You're not just someone who feels deeply. You're someone who's been called to transform that sensitivity into wisdom, that depth into healing, that difference into meaningful contribution. Jung observed that people like you often resist acknowledging the magnitude of their potential impact, but that resistance usually stems from a fear of taking on the responsibility that comes with true gifts. Think about the people who most influenced your life, who inspired you the most, who helped you understand deep aspects of yourself or the world. They were probably people who, like you, possessed that sharp sensitivity, that ability to see beyond the surface, that courage to explore psychological territories others avoid. Now it's your turn to be that influence for others. Not because you chose this responsibility, but because it's inherent to your nature. When you possess the ability to perceive emotional nuances others miss, when you can sense the pain hidden behind forced smiles, when you can offer genuine understanding in a frequently cold and disconnected world, you have a natural responsibility to use those gifts. Jung discovered that people in advanced stages of individuation often experience what he called an inner calling, a growing sense that there's something specific you came to do in this world, something only you can do in your unique way. This calling might manifest as an irresistible passion for a certain cause, a magnetic attraction to a certain type of work, or simply an inner certainty that you have something important to offer. If you want to continue this journey of self-knowledge and transformation, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to receive content that will further deepen your understanding of your unique nature and how to maximize your potential impact on the world. The fascinating thing is that the more you honor your authenticity, the more you become a magnet for situations and people who need exactly what you have to offer. It's as if the universe conspires to put you in the right places, at the right times, with the right people who can benefit from your unique sensitivity and wisdom. But here's something Jung emphasized. Living authentically doesn't mean living selfishly or in isolation. In fact, it's the opposite. When you're truly aligned with your authentic self, you naturally become more generous, more compassionate, more able to contribute meaningfully to the well-being of others. Your sensitivity becomes a healing instrument. Your depth becomes a wellspring of wisdom. Your ability to perceive what others don't see becomes a tool for helping people better understand themselves and their situations. You become an empathetic mirror where others can see their own truths reflected with clarity and compassion. Jung believed the world is suffering from a crisis of superficiality and disconnection, and that people like you are essential to the collective healing of this crisis. In a time when so many feel lost, disconnected from themselves and each other, your ability to offer genuine depth and authentic understanding is more valuable than ever. You don't need to become a public figure or a world leader to fulfill this mission. Often, the most profound impact happens in everyday interactions, in the moments where you offer true presence to someone who's hurting, where you see the beauty in someone who can't see it in themselves, where you offer understanding to someone who feels utterly misunderstood. Every time you choose to be authentically yourself, instead of conforming to superficial expectations, you're giving permission for others to do the same. Every time you honor your sensitivity instead of trying to suppress it, you're showing that it's possible to be different and still, or precisely because of it, have immense value. Your life becomes a living demonstration that depth is possible in a superficial world, that authenticity is attainable in a culture of masks, that sensitivity is a strength, not a weakness. You become proof that it's possible to live in accordance with your true nature and not just survive, but thrive. Jung knew the path of individuation isn't easy, but he also knew it's the only path that leads to true fulfillment and genuine impact. When you look back, decades from now, you won't remember the times you tried to be like everyone else. You'll remember the times you had the courage to be exactly who you are. Watch the next video that pops up in the card to continue exploring how to further develop your authentic nature and maximize your unique potential in the world. Today could be the day you stop apologizing for being who you are and start celebrating the extraordinary sensitivity and depth that make you truly special. The world needs you, not an edited or diminished version of you, but you in your total authenticity and power.